Hello out there, wonderful internet world. We are back again. It is your bearded brothers. We are back with yet another sports podcast. I'm bearded brother Matt.
Hi, that's Loki.
That's Loki and the bearded brother Chris. Loki is being a little bit of an attention hog right now. Also, as of the day we're recording this, everybody can wish my brother a happy birthday, as that was yesterday for him. By the time this comes out, it will have been 2 days ago, I think. So, anybody that wants to chime in with happy birthday, you're more than welcome to do so. We would appreciate it. Well, I would think I would find it funny. I don't know that Chris would appreciate it. Outside of that, there's not a lot of news this week. I think our biggest news story is that the Bears have fired their offensive coordinator, and their new offensive coordinator is the guy who was the passing game coordinator. Also, he was apparently the offensive coordinator last year for the Carolina Panthers. And we all know what a crap show that was. So, I have absolutely zero confidence in this whatsoever. I think Eberflus is trying to rearrange the deck chairs on the Hindenburg as it's going into the ground. I don't think he's not going to have a job after this season. And if it were up to me, the general manager wouldn't have a job after this season. I don't think he knows what he's doing. But yes, he has presided over a massive disaster. Anything that you have to say about that?
Not really.
Outside of haha?
I mean, it is what it is.
Let me see here. Did we already talk about Dennis Allen getting the can? Yes, we did. That was last week.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yep. We'll get to how his replacement did. Let me see here. We have officially confirmed now, after some speculation, that Dak is officially going to get surgery and will be done for the season. Frankly, I think he looked at the state of the Cowboys currently and went, yeah, no, I'm not going back to that. I need that surgery.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he is officially done for the season. And then, in other news that's twisted, the Colts, who at one point in time decided that Wacko Flacco gave them the best chance to win, have now decided that is no longer the case and that they should they're no longer going to win, so they're just going to see what they've got in Richardson for the rest of the season. Hopefully, maybe, kind of. But nobody's sure. Nobody's sure. And then in random other news, uniform news. First off, those all red unis with the candy apple red helmets that the Texans wore on Monday night.
Oh, yeah.
Or Sunday night, that was pretty tight.
Yeah.
I liked those.
A little more red than I personally would like, but they were nice.
The helmets that were worn by the Ravens on Thursday night, those were tight.
Oh, I like those. Yeah.
They're more of purple. They're not that shiny black. They're like a matte.
Yeah.
Like it
was more of a matte purple. Yeah.
Yeah, like a matte purple. Nice, yeah, I thought those were tight. They should stick with those as their premier helmets. I like that. That was a lot. Yeah. That was a lot nicer to me. Because like my helmet tastes are doubled. I either like it matte, like a duller color, or I want it to be metallic shiny. That gloss,
almost sparkly, almost
Yeah, that gloss in between shiny. I don't like the gloss. I like the metallic shiny, the sparkly shiny, or the matte. That in between thing is where I'm like, nah, I can go without that one.
Yeah, it depends. I don't mind the gloss depending on which ones they are, but I typically agree. I typically are more of a matte or a straight up metallic kind of look.
Yeah. That tends to be my thing. Also, I will say that there is a hockey record that has now been broke. There were also a couple of NFL records that fell. The hockey record that broke is that The Winnipeg Jets have started their season 15-1, which is the most points after 16 games of any team in the NHL ever. Remember that hot start that we were talking about Boston a few years back? Or like year before last? The Jets are eclipsing them. They have literally only lost one game all season. Hellebuck has been standing on his head. He has stupid, ridiculous numbers. He's running away with the Vezina already at this point. The Jets are running away with the President's Trophy. I don't think this is sustainable, but while they're doing it, it is kind of fun to watch. So, I did want to put that out there. There will be a hockey top 10 power rankings this week because the teams have finally played enough to make that worth my time. So, all right, outside of that, ready to get into the week? Do you want to start? You want me to start?
Not a big deal either way.
Doesn't matter to me. I'll start. Then you can take the Vikings game if you want it, because I got the Vikings game last week.
That's fine.
All right.
Not like there's much to talk about with that.
No, I will spoil this with everybody. I think it was the second worst game of the week.
Potentially, yeah.
The only game that I thought might be worse is indeed the Sunday night game. For a variety of reasons. But that's not what we're talking.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about right now. That is not at all what we're going to talk about right now. We are here to talk about Thursday night football, and that game was the Bengals at the Ravens. Now, I will say we both picked the Ravens, and we both scraped by and got that W. Final score, 34-35, Ravens win. This was a shootout game. Holy crap. And it was really only a shootout because of a couple of players. So let's talk stats because holy moly, there's some stats in this game. Joe Burrow, 34 of 56. 428 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 sacks for only 7 yards lost. That's ridiculous numbers. And the fact that you didn't win. Now, yeah, that there was some... There were some missed calls at the end of the game that spoil this. But I still think this was a great game to watch. We'll talk about it when I'm done with the stats. Chase Brown, 13 carries, 42 yards, and 1 touchdown. Joe Burrow, 2 for 6, and Tanner Hudson, 1 for 1. Jamar Chase, 11 catches for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. They could not guard him. He was on fire all game. And you know what? The fact that the Bengals didn't come to some sort of agreement or extension with him already, he's just getting more and more expensive for them. Just getting more and more expensive. Chase Brown, 9 catches, 52 yards. Tanner Hudson, 6 for 42 and a touchdown. Gesicki, 4 for 30. I finally figured out how to say this name. Andre Yoshivash. Looks like Iosivas. It's Yoshivash. 2 for 29. Jermaine Burton, 1 for 11. And Cam Grandy did not haul in his singular target. Burrow did have 2 fumbles. Chase Brown did fumble and lose it. And Khalil Herbert recovered a fumble. Jermaine Pratt leading the way with 8 total tackles and 6 of them solo. Joseph Let's see here. Nope, not that. Where's they did not have any sacks on Lamar, but they did get to him a few times. They also did not have any defensive touchdowns. Jermaine Burton had one kick return for 17 yards. Trenton Irwin did attempt a pair of punt returns, but only got -4 yards out of them. Evan McPherson was 4 for 4 on extra points, did not attempt a field goal. And yeah, not bad at all for Cincinnati. 34 points. Lamar, Baltimore side. Lamar Jackson, 25 of 33, 290 yards and 4 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 16 carries, 68 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, 7 carries, 33 yards. Justice Hill, 2 for -2. Sorry, buddy. Tylan Wallace got 3 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews, nice to see you on the stat sheet. 6 for 68 for a touchdown. Rashad Bateman, 6 for 54 and a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 4 for 34. Nelson Aguilar, 1 for 6. Deontay Johnson, 1 for 6. Charlie Kohler, 1 for 4. Henry, 1 for 3. Justice Hill, 2 for 0. Roquan Smith did recover a fumble. He also led the way tackling, 12 of them, and 6 of them were solo. They did not have any interceptions. Let me see here. The sacks all came from Mandabike. Namdi Mandabike. He got all 3 sacks. That's pretty damn good. A 3-sack night? I think you'll take that. Kick returns. Keaton Mitchell did return 1 for 30 yards. They did not have a punt return attempted. Tucker was 3 of 4 on extra points. Yeah. So the end of the game, I gotta look and see who had the last. Yeah. So, with 1:49 left, the Ravens score to put it up 35-28. Since he marches the field and they do get the score, Jamar Chase gets his 3rd touchdown off a 5-yard pass. And then they decide to nut up and do what Tampa should have done last week against Cincinnati. Tampa, take notes. And they decided to grab their nuts and go for it to get a 2-point conversion to win the game in regulation. And they did not. But there may have been some holding. There may have been some pass interference. And there was definitely... there was definitely offensive holding. There was also defensive holding. And there was definitely roughing the QB. Roughing the passer.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I will say the roughing the passer, I'm not sure if that's because his momentum caused him to trip over the offensive lineman who was now on the ground. I never got a good angle of his feet, so I cannot tell. But he definitely grabbed at the face mask and head of Burrow after the pass had left his hands. There was a definitive, that should have been called. 100%. Yeah. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't have called that, but there might have been extenuating circumstances in him, tripping over the O-lineman. But there was also offensive holding, as they were definitively holding one of the edge rushers there. But there was also defensive holding on the receivers. There was pass interference. Not as blatant as I think that we'll get to a game later on that had some bad pass interference at the end of a game that may have cost a team. But yeah, there were some penalties there that should have been called that weren't. And I feel bad for the Bengals coming out on the wrong side of that one. Unfortunately, they did. They easily should have won that game, though. If you look at the stats, I think they firmly outplayed the Ravens. The Ravens, I think, got lucky. Their defense is not the fearsome Ravens defense we're used to. Their offense is carrying the team right now, and it's unusual to see a Ravens team like that. We'll see how well they do in the playoffs comp, But they better start working on their defense or they're going to be in a world of hurt come the playoffs. I got nothing else, unless you got anything.
No, not really.
All right, your turn. Hi, Loki.
I guess we'll go ahead and talk about the Vikings and Jaguars game, despite of how absolutely terrible it was to watch.
God, this was like watching paint dry.
It was just a really boring game where both sides never really wanted to win the game. It was kind of bad.
We did both pick the Vikings.
Yeah. And it was, 12-7?
12-7. We were correct.
All right, let's look at stats. Sam Darnold, 24 of 38, 241 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. Woo! I love it. Aaron Jones, 17 rushing attempts for 88 yards. I'm pretty sure he left, what was it, like halfway through the game?
He did come back.
Partway through. Did he? Okay.
Yeah. He had a chest injury and then he would return.
Gotcha. Cam Akers, 13 for 38. Sam Darnold, 7 of 28, and Ty Chandler, 4 for 18. Receiving, we have Addison, 2 for 25, Oliver, 4 for 52, Jefferson, 5 for 48, TJ, 8 for 72, and Trent Sherfield, 1 for 11. Pretty shit day, all things considered. No fumbles, so I guess there's that. Byron Murphy and Cameron Bynum each come away with an interception. Andrew Van Ginkel has a sack. Blake Cashman had a sack. Ivan Pace Jr. had a sack. That's the three. That makes sense. Those three. Kicking, our new kicker John Parker Romo was 4 for 4 on field goals for a long of 45. The only reason we won, quite literally, was off a kicker we signed off. What was he? He was playing in the UFL, right? It was, or something like that.
I don't even know.
Yeah. So I remember. So the funny thing is, I remember a story, and the story basically came down to, we had both this kid, John Romo, and our current starting kicker on our team before cuts happened in the offseason, and Romo got cut. And so it's funny to see that now he's got called back for duty just because like the other kid got injured. So it's kind of funny how that worked out.
I agree.
But yeah, I think he was playing for I'm pretty sure he was playing for one of the other leagues when he got called, being like, "Hey, we need an emergency kicker. You were playing well. We already know you. You already played with us before, so made sense." So, yeah. Now he's getting so he quite literally won us the game off his leg. So let's go ahead and take a look over at the Jaguar stats. Obviously, as we know, Trevor Lawrence was not playing. It was Mac Jones instead, and Mac Jones was 14 of 22 for 111 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks, as I mentioned earlier. Mac Jones did have 5 rushing attempts for 8 yards and the single touchdown that they have. Travis Etienne was 11 for 44. Receiving, Bretton Strange was 2 for 25. Brian Thomas was 2 for 12. Evan Ingram was 6 for 40. Gabe was 1 for 19, and Luke Farrell was 2 for 16. Mac Jones did fumble and lose the ball. Interceptions from Jacksonville were Darnell Savage, Foyo Olokun, and Montarik Brown. Yeah, let's look at sacks. Any sacks? Trayvon Walker had that 1 sack, which is, questionable, but was it? Man, it was.
Yeah.
Kicking, we have Cam Little had no field goals and the 1 extra point. And kickoff returns, Tank Bisbee did returned 1 kickoff for 24 yards. No punt returns. Yeah, that's it. That's quite literally, it was an extremely boring game. The refs missed some interesting calls on occasions, and Jacksonville had 1 drive of offense and did fucking nothing. And the Vikings had several drives of offense where we should have actually blown out Jacksonville completely, but
And then
then
stalled.
Sam Darnold decided he wanted to throw picks into the end zone
Oh my god.
twice.
Overthrew people.
And then the other one was I think at the 50 or something. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he overthrew people. He was behind people. I don't know what's going on with him all of a sudden. Although I do have a hot potato about it.
It's hard to say. It's one of those things where it could be teams are figuring it out. It could be, the fact that, we do have a new left tackle in there, so maybe he's getting pressured more.
He actually played pretty well.
Left tackle. No, I know, but I'm just saying maybe Sam just felt uncomfortable with the new, like.
That's possible.
Because sometimes it can just come to a mental thing, right?
Yeah.
Mentally, all of a sudden, I don't know if I can feel as safe because, I played with that one guy and I was feeling. I'm just saying it's possible. I don't know for sure. But it does feel weird. He does feel like he's a little bit more rushed sometimes. He's making weird decisions sometimes. Yeah, I don't know. And it's very clear too when Aaron Jones isn't having a good rushing game. Sam Darnold tends to have a bad passing game.
Yeah, you definitely need that.
Feels like he needs both of those. Yeah.
Like Cam Akers is not actually a bad backup, I don't think.
No. He's actually done pretty good.
Yeah.
In between sets, but I don't think you want to rely on that Cam.
No, I don't think so either. You definitely want Aaron Jones to be out there running the ball, and you can definitely see when he doesn't get like a touchdown or a big run or something that defenses have to respect, and they can slow him down.
Yeah.
You generally see if you have to put more weight on Darnold, he definitely doesn't hold up as well.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, it was mostly a boring game. Honestly, Jacksonville had plenty of opportunities to win if they wanted to. Equally, the Vikings had plenty of opportunities. Neither team really wanted to win, and it came down to a really, really boring defensive game mostly.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to take us to Deutschland. We are going to go and talk about a game that happened in Munich, Germany.
That was a boring game, too.
I think not as boring as you would have thought. Less boring than the Vikings game.
Yeah, not by much. They were both pretty boring for different reasons.
They were, but less boring than the Vikings game. At least this one came down to overtime.
Sure.
Let's talk about the Giants at the Panthers in Munich. We both picked the Panthers, and guess what? The Panthers have their 3rd win of the season. Winning 20-17 over the Giants, who are... I don't even know anymore. Daniel Jones, 22 of 37, 190 yards, 2 picks, 2 sacks for 15 yards. Tyrone Tracy, 18 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown. 2 fumbles, one of which he lost. At probably the worst time, unless you're a Giants fan and hoping for a tank. At which point, he saved your tank. You should probably give him an award. We'll talk about it. Devin Singletary, 8 for 40. Daniel Jones, 7 for 26 and a touchdown. Malik Neighbors, did attempt an end around with him. It went for -2 yards. Wandale Robinson, 5 catches, 51 yards. Malik Neighbors, 6 catches, 50 yards. Jalen Hyatt, 4 catches, 39 yards. Theo Johnson, 4 catches, 37 yards. Isaiah Hodgins, 1 for 7. Devin Singletary, 1 for 5. And Tyrone Tracy, 1 for 1. As previously mentioned, Tracy did fumble twice. He lost one of them. DJ Davidson recovered a fumble. Again, rookie Tyler Newman, there's that guy again from Minnesota, led the way, 12 total tackles, 8 of them solo. In terms of sacks, Brian Burns sacked sacked a person off his old team. which was nice for him, I'm sure. There were no interceptions for New York. They did have 3 kick returns totaling 77 yards. Eric Gray did this with a long of 30. Amir Smith-Marset had 3 punt returns for a total of 17 yards and a long of 10. Graham Gano, 1 for 2 on his field goals. Long was 42, and he was 2 for 2 on extra points. Now let's flip over and talk about the Panthers. Bryce Young, 15 of 25, 126 yards, and a touchdown. And you know what? Watching him on the sidelines, like, he looks happy. Like, he doesn't look depressed and sad and like the weight of the world is on him anymore. Like, he looks relaxed and happy. He's joking with his teammates. I kind of like that, and I think it's helping him. He's no longer trying to be the hero. He's just being Bryce Young, which I think somebody needed to get in his ear and tell him. Chuba Hubbard, on the other hand, is putting on a cape. He carried 28 times for 153 yards and a touchdown. Young did scramble twice for a total of 30 yards. And Miles Sanders got 2 carries for 5 yards. In terms of receiving, Jalen Coker, 3 for 41. Xavier Legette, 3 for 40. David Moore, 2 for 18. Chuba Hubbard, 4 for 16. Jatavian Sanders, 2 for 8. And Ian Thomas, 1 for 3. So yeah, this was primarily a rushing game. The Panthers decided we're not going to throw it very much. We're just going to run it down your throat. And we're going to make you stop us. And yeah. Chuba Hubbard did fumble and lose the fumble. Raheem Blackshear fumbled but did recover. And Josie Jewell recovered a fumble. He also had one of the most hilarious interceptions I have ever seen in football. The ball got bounced out of the receiver's hands while Jewell was getting ready to, break it up. And it got pinned in between his chest and the receiver's shoulder. And somehow or another, as they were going to the ground, it just kind of fell into his arms. My wife watched it, and she's not a football fan, but even she went, "That's funny." It was ridiculous. Like, me describing it cannot tell you how funny it is. Go search this out. Anybody who comes across this, go search that out. That is totally worth the watch. It was hilarious. In terms of defense, J.C. Horn leads the way with tackles. 8 total tackles. 6 of them were solo. In terms of sacks, Ashawn Robinson with a sack. DJ Wanham, hey, there's a name we know, with a sack. Those are the only 2 sacks that there were. Xavier Woods had 1 interception, and as we mentioned, Josie Jewell had the other interception. Raheem Blackshear, he had 2 kick returns for a total of 51 yards with a long of 28. He also had 2 punt returns for a total of 13 yards with a long of 13, and David Moore had 1 punt return for 6 yards. Eddie Pinheiro, 2 for 2 on field goals with a long of 53 and 2 for 2 on extra points, and he had that game-winning field goal after... Oh, God. Tyrone Tracy fumbled the ball on the first carry in overtime. Recovered by Josie Jewell. Then they went down the field and kicked the field goal. And because at that point the Giants had already had the ball, that field goal ends the game. Was it a pretty game? Nah. It was fun to watch Chuba Hubbard kind of get out there and run through people. He had some very long runs, and he was a lot of fun to watch. Other than that, it was very dink and dunk. You know what it reminded me of? The Panthers, when they had Jake Delhomme and Stephen Davis. Very, very run down your throat. We're not going to throw it very far downfield. Very pop gun. But the defense was pretty damned good. And Davis could crack off some runs and just wear you down. And that's what this looks like to me. They also, I believe, extended Chuba Hubbard. It looks like he is going to be their primary bell cow back. We still have not seen. It is Jonathan Brooks, right? Was who they drafted from Texas? Yeah. We haven't seen him back yet, although he may split some time with Hubbard because you really don't want your running back to run 28 times in a game. You'd rather split that up a little bit. You don't want to wear them down and cause them to have, issues. So, I do think this game wasn't boring, but it definitely was. If you like high flying action, this wasn't your game. If you can enjoy the ground and pound style game, this was for you. Like old Steelers football used to be. All right, I'm done. It's your turn. Unless you have anything more to say about this game.
Nope. I got very little to add about that game because I didn't watch it.
I only watched the beginning. I watched the end of it, I mean.
I was sleeping through most of it. Let's talk about... Let's talk about the Broncos at the Chiefs. Because I like pain.
I thought that might be the one you go with.
I like pain. Broncos lose to the Chiefs 14-16.
We both picked the Chiefs, by the way.
And I also want to just spoil it. Game came down to a game-ending field goal for the Broncos. They were on pretty much, I think it was like a 35 or something yard field goal. Like it was pretty much a chip shot. 36, something like that.
Yep.
It's pretty much a guaranteed that would have put them 1 point over the Chiefs to win. As they, as the ball snapped to kick the ball, they lined up to kick, and unfortunately, one of the Chiefs special teamers was able to get around the edge and managed to block the field goal, somehow allowing KC to retain their lossless streak. Their
undefeated.
Yeah, defeated streak. However you want to word it.
Here's the funny part. Somebody went through and watched tape of the Broncos special teams, and the guy that got run over has wound up on his back more than 60% of the time during field goals. And so it's like the Broncos should have known this was an issue, and they just never bothered to correct it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where, like, words can only describe it how lucky the Chiefs continue to get. That's all I'm going to say. Like, they always come away with the most critical play at the most critical moment. They always do. They always do. Okay, let's look at stats. Bo Nix, 22 of 30, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Pretty good game, to be honest with you. Pretty solid. He's been getting a lot better. Rushing, Audric Estime, 14 attempts for 53 yards.
For those of you who don't know who that is, sorry. For those of you who don't know who that is, that's the super cut dude. Looks like a brick shithouse.
Yeah, he really does. Jaleel McLaughlin, 2 for 12, and Marvin Mims Jr., 3 for 17. So I assume they must have been down. Who's their normal running back? What's his name? Williams? Is it Javonte Williams?
I believe so.
Is that their normal running back?
Yeah. I think
he must have went down.
Yeah, I will say that from what I'm seeing, there's a surge in people thinking that Estime may have an inside track to being a bell cow. Their primary back.
What?
Bell cow back. Primary back.
I heard it wrong. Yeah.
It's okay. They're talking about that because he's a big beastly back and he's still young, so.
Yeah, maybe. The problem is that, at least based upon the one game that we got of him, 14 for 53 isn't as much as you'd like to see. It's not primary back numbers, put it that way.
Yeah.
So, receiving, Cortland Sutton, 6 for 70 and a touchdown. Devon Vale, 4 for 39 and a touchdown. Little Jordan Humphrey, 2 for 23. Lucas Kroll, 2 for 21. Marvin Mims Jr., 4 for 13. Bo Nix did fumble but did not lose the ball. No interceptions from Denver. John Franklin Myers had 1 sack. Jonathan Cooper had a sack. Nick Bonito had a sack. And Zach Allen had a sack for 4 sacks on the night. Kicking, Will Lutz was 0 for 2 on field goals. Ouch. And 2 for 2 on extra points. So in other words, if you would have gotten even one of those field goals, they would have won. Ouch. No kickoff returns. Denver had 1 punt return for 28 yards from Marvin Mims Jr. Let's go ahead and look over at the Chiefs side and see how they played. If my phone wants to cooperate with me, please. Come on.
Good luck.
Patrick Mahomes, 28 for 42, 266 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Rushing, Kareem Hunt, 14 for 35. Again, not exactly what you want to see.
Nope.
You'd like to see a little bit better. Patrick Mahomes, 3 for 19. Receiving, DeAndre Hopkins, 4 for 56. A little quieter this game. Kareem Hunt, 7 for 65. Samaje Perine, 2 for 37. Travis Kelce, 8 for 64 and a touchdown. Yeah, this game was not one of their better passing games at all, or even rushing games. Honestly, this was just not one of their better games, period. No fumbles, no interceptions, any sacks. Nazir Johnson had a sack, and Nick Bolton had a sack for only 2 sacks on the night. Kicking, Harrison Butker was 3 for 3 for the long of 36 and 1 extra point. Kickoff returns, they had 1 kickoff return from Carson Steele for 25 yards. And Mecole Hardman was returning punts for them. He had 3 for a long of 19. Honestly, Denver outplayed them for most of the game. The problem is that they just couldn't close out the game. That's pretty much all it came down to. They just couldn't close out the game. I think they played better for the majority. But Kansas City doing what Kansas City does, which is finding ways to somehow win games that they shouldn't win.
Isn't that interesting? I hate it, and I hope it comes to an end soon.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been. I don't know how often we've been saying it for like the last it feels like the last 5 to 6 weeks of just constantly and they somehow squeak by another win, and they somehow squeak by another win, and they did this shit last year too. And I kept saying eventually it's gonna break, and it never broke. And so now I'm just convinced that for some reason the Chiefs are just some of the luckiest motherfuckers in the league. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's that point where you look at it and you go, there's a point where you look at it and you go, okay, they've been getting so much luck go their way. Who are they paying? What's going on? They're always winning by the smallest of margins. What the fuck is this?
Okay. That's funny, but not that. Okay. Well, all right. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. The Chiefs do have a little bit of a tougher schedule coming up, so we might see them take an L sometime in the near future here. We'll see. All right. I'm going to talk about another fun game, and this one was actually exciting and I think fun to watch. And we said going into this particular game, you and I both had a conversation about it, that this would prove kind of where each team was at. And I said it was going to be a close affair. You agreed. We split on this. It is Pittsburgh at Washington. You picked Pittsburgh. I picked Washington. You did beat me 28-27. It was a close game, and it did show that both of these teams are really, really good. Despite Washington taking the L, they should not take any negatives away from this. They played their butts off, and they had a very good game. The problem is they ran into a resurgent Russell Wilson.
Pretty much.
And even this wasn't a great game for him. 14 of 28, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 3 times for 23 yards. Literally 50% on his passing. But when he did connect, it was amazing. Also, Miles Killebrew attempted a pass. He was 0 of 1. Rushing, Jalen Warren, 14 of 66, 14 for 66. Najee Harris, 21 for 53 and a touchdown. Cordero Patterson, hey, 3 for 14. George Pickens, 1 for 4. And Wilson, 4 for 3. Receiving, George Pickens, 5 for 91 and an absolutely unreal touchdown catch. Just gorgeous, completely jumped up and stretched out to get it. Saved the crap out of that Russell Wilson throw, but it was gorgeous looking. Mike Williams caught one pass with his new team, but it was a 32-yard game-winning touchdown. Well, game time. Technically, the extra point was the game winner, but yeah, that Mike Williams, good job on your new team. You've already proven that the Jets had no idea what they were doing with you. Jalen Warren caught 2 for 29. Calvin Austin III caught 2 for 20. Pat Freiermuth caught 3 for 17 and a touchdown. Darnell Washington caught 1 for 6. Michael Pruitt, Van Jefferson, and James Pierre failed to haul in any of their targets. Jalen Warren did fumble and lose it. Ben Skowronek, that's how I'm going to say it. You recovered a fumble. Patrick Queen had 7 total tackles, and 6 of them were solo. In terms of sacks, both Preston Smith got a sack, and Cam Hayward had 2 of them. They did not have any interceptions. Cordero Patterson returned 3 kicks for 61 yards with a long of 25. Jalen Warren returned 2 for a total of 56 with a long of 35. Calvin Austin III had 3 punt returns, totaling 20 yards with a long of 17. Chris Boswell went 4 for 4 on his extra points. On the other side of things, with the Commanders, Jaden Daniels was 17 of 34 for 202 yards. Did not have the touchdown, did not have an interception. Was sacked 3 times for 20 yards. Eckler carried 13 times for 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jeremy McNichols carried 4 times for 7 yards and a touchdown. Jaden Daniels only ran 3 times for a total of 5 yards. Chris Rodriguez Jr. had 2 rushes for 4 yards. In terms of receiving, Terry McLaurin, 5 for 113. Noah Brown, 3 for 33. Zach Ertz, 4 for 31. Luke McCaffrey, use the force, Luke, 1 for 23. Olamide Zacchaeus, 1 for 8. Austin Eckler, 1 for 7. Deami Brown, 2 for minus 13. In terms of fumbles, Olamide Zacchaeus fumbled twice, lost 1, recovered 1. Jeremy Chin also recovered a fumble. Chin leading the way, 13 total tackles, 6 of them solo. In terms of sacks, Frankie Louvu, he had a sack. Dante Fowler Jr. had 2 sacks for your total of 3. Chin also had the interception. Eckler returned 4 kicks for a total of 118 yards with a long of 39. Olamide Zacchaeus had 2 punt returns for 0 yards. Zane Gonzalez did the kicking. He was 2 of 2 on field goals with a long of 48 and 3 of 3 on his extra points. So yeah, this was a very hotly and tightly contested game. If you look at the stats, they had eerily similar stats in terms of defense, and just it's the idea that Russell Wilson is a veteran and he knows how to get things done in crunch time. And I think that's what this game came down to. When it came down to crunch time and it came down to who was going to take control in the fourth quarter, Russ hit the big play he needed. And I think given time, Daniels will learn to do the same. But this was a fun game to watch. I thoroughly will say that if you want to go back and watch a game, I would watch this one. It's enjoyable. Your turn. Unless you have anything to say about that.
Not really, to be honest. No, not really.
Alright.
Well, I guess we'll talk about Oh man, a lot of these games are kind of cruddy. But let's talk about this one because this is kind of a fun, interesting one. Falcons at Saints. Falcons lose 17-20.
We both picked the Falcons, by the way, which means their new coach has all the riz. And apparently,
Terrible.
yeah, and apparently before the game, he came in and he talked about clogging the toilet.
Yes, he did.
That was
did do
funny,
that.
by the way.
He did do
Also, do you know why they lost this game?
Because they made a lot of mistakes.
That, and at the end of the game, what did Kirk do?
What Kirk always does.
Checked it down.
Throws interceptions. Oh yeah, he checked it down.
He checked it down.
Yeah, he did that one check down. Yeah.
You're just like, Kirk, didn't you learn?
Nope. Check down Kirk, boy.
Yep.
That's
And that's exactly what killed them.
All right, let's talk stats. Kirk Cousins, 23 of 38, 306 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. However, at least one part of their team was working out pretty good. Rushing, Bijan Robinson, 20 for 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyler Algier, 11 for 59. Receiving, Bijan Robinson, 3 for 28. Darnell Mooney, 5 for 96. Drake London, 8 for 97. Kyle Pitts, 4 for 55. Ray MacLeod, 3 for 30. Yeah, hi. You were quite loud, you know that, right? I don't think he cares.
Nah, he doesn't.
Kirk Cousins fumbled the ball twice, but did not lose it. No interceptions. No sacks. Young Koo, 1 for 4 on field goals. Oof. For a long of 27 and 2 for 2 on extra points. Young Koo, I hate to be that guy, but you single-handedly did lose your team that game. If you make even 2 more of those field goals, you win. Heck, 1 more of those field goals, you win. Like, come on, dude. Anyways. Kickoff returns. 2 were done by Ray MacLeod for a long of 33, and 3 were done by Avery Williams for a long of 35. Avery Williams also had their punt return for 80 yards. So overall, they didn't play horribly, outside of some mistakes here and there, mostly from kicking and special teams, unfortunately. Let's go look at the Saints, because I would not say they necessarily played all that well either, even though they won. Derek Carr, 16 of 25, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Rushing, Alvin Kamara, 17 for 55, Derek Carr, 4 for 17, Taysom Hill, 4 for 14. Receiving, Alvin Kamara, 5 for 54, Juwan Johnson, 2 for 22, Kevin Austin Jr., 2 for 36, Marquise Valdez-Scantling, 3 for 109 and 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill, 2 for 36. Fumbles. Derek Carr did fumble the ball, but did not lose it. Tyrann Mathieu came away with that interception, because of course he did.
Of course he did.
Cameron Jordan had a sack. Chase Young had a sack. Peyton Turner had a sack for 3 sacks on the night. Blake Grupe was 2 for 2 on field goals for a long 38 and 2 for 2 on extra points. Dante Pettis had 1 kickoff return for 26 yards, and Jermaine Jackson had also 1 kickoff return for 25 yards. Jermaine Jackson also had the 1 punt return from New Orleans for 18 yards. Honestly, they played very similar to each other. Saints just squeaked out a slight victory, basically, to be honest with you. Falcons had plenty of opportunities to win, to be completely honest with you, and dropped the ball hard. So, classic.
Yeah. And it was classic Kirk to just check that ball down at the end and totally not give your team a chance to get closer for a field goal.
I mean, to be fair, I'd be pretty frustrated if my kicker missed 3 out of 4 field goals too. So
that's true.
Gave him plenty of opportunities for those already.
That's true. So the next game I'm going to talk about is one that brings a smile of joy to my face because it involves one of my 2 favorite things in football. And that is the Cowboys getting their feelings hurt.
Fair.
Which they did. Again.
They did.
Eagles at Cowboys. We both picked the Eagles. They do win 34-6. Let's go over that. And it wasn't even a particularly good game from the Eagles either. That's the funny part. Like, if the Eagles were playing even a competent football team, they probably don't win this game. Jalen Hurts, 14 of 20, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Sacked 5 times for 46 yards. Pickett, 1 of 2, 5 yards. Rushing, Barkley, 14 for 66. Jalen Hurts, 7 for 56 and 2 touchdowns. Will Shipley, 9 for 34. Kenneth Gainwell, 7 for 30. Kenny Pickett, 1 for 1. Receiving, A.J. Brown, 5 for 109. Johan Dotson, 1 for 27. Dallas Goedert, 2 for 55. Devonta Smith, 2 for 14. Barkley, 1 for 12. Gainwell, 1 for 9. Aina Smith, 2 for 6. Johnny Wilson, 1 for 5. And Grant Calcaterra did not pull in his target. Fumbling. Jalen Hurts did fumble and lose it. The following players all recovered a fumble. And I have to do it that way because, yeah. Zach Bond, Milton Williams, Reed Blankenship, and Cooper DeJean. That should tell you just about everything you need to know. Cooper DeJean recovered his in the end zone, by the way. In terms of defense, Zach Bond, 8 total tackles, 3 of them were solo. Sack-wise, Jalen Carter combined with Brandon Graham for a sack. Milton Williams had a sack. Bryce Huff also had a sack for a total of 3 sacks. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had an interception. Will Shipley had 2 kick returns for a total of 64 yards, long of 32. Kenneth Gainwell had 1 kick return for 23 yards. Cooper DeJean had 3 punt returns for 43 yards with a long of 31. Jake Elliott kicked 2 field goals with a long of 39 and made all 4 of his extra points. How did the Cowboys lose this game? Here you go. Cooper Rush, 13 of 23 for 45 yards. Sacked once for 10 yards. Trey Lance, whom they trotted out to see what they could get, 4 of 6, 21 yards and an interception. Sacked twice for 7 yards. Rushing, Rico Dowdle, 12 for 53. Ezekiel Elliott, 6 for 22. Trey Lance, 3 for 17. CeeDee Lamb, 1 for 3. Cooper Rush, 2 for 2. Receiving, Jake Ferguson, 4 for 24. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 21. Jalen Tolbert, 3 for 14. Jalen Brooks, 1 for 4. Rico Dowdle, 3 for 3. Luke Schoonmaker and Hunter Luepke both failed to haul in their targets. Fumbles. Cooper Rush fumbled and lost twice. Ezekiel Elliott fumbled and lost once. Jake Ferguson fumbled and lost once. Marist Liufau had 1 fumble recovery. Defensively, DeMarvion Overshone had 11 total tackles, 7 of them were solo. In terms of sacks, Micah Parsons, welcome back, Micah. He had 2 sacks. And then 2. Carl Lawson and Osa Odigihuzua combined for a sack. For a total of 5 sacks. Trayvon Diggs also had an interception. Cavante Turpin returned 2 kicks for a total of 83 yards with a long of 47. They did not have any punt returns. Aubrey, 2 of 2 on field goals, long of 46, no extra points to hit. Yeah, you lost because you couldn't hold on to the football, and you treated it like a greased pig. Also, if you only get 45 yards passing out of your primary quarterback, you're not going to win. Literally, you combined for a total of 66 passing yards and 97 rushing yards. And theoretically, you could take some of that off because there was an interception. And you can also take some of it off because of the sacks. So, you lost 17 yards on sacks. You're not even breaking 200 yards of offense. No wonder you didn't win. Dallas, it is official. If it were not for the Giants...
You suck.
If it were not for the Giants, you would be the NFC East's biggest dumpster fire. Instead, you are only a minor dumpster fire compared to the dumpster fire that is the Giants. The difference is the
To
Giants.
be fair, they're fighting for that place.
Huh?
To be fair, they're fighting for that place.
They are. And to be fair, the Giants were expected to be a bit of a dumpster fire. You were expected to compete for the playoffs. I'd say your fall from grace and your dumpster fire is much worse than theirs. Like, they expected to be on fire. You guys expected to be cool as a cucumber, and now you're on fire and you have no idea what to do.
For real.
And Jerry's running around talking all this good stuff.
Dude, some of the shit I've heard Jerry say is absolutely insane. At this point, you have to be like, dude's got dementia. He can't be running the Cowboys no more.
No, he cannot.
No wonder he thought they were all in, because he probably was dreaming it all.
Yeah, he probably was dreaming it all. They were all in bed. Or they're all in
and
on
he
the
woke
first...
up and went, shit, that was all in my head? Fuck!
Or they're all in on the first overall pick.
Apparently, whoever that is going to be.
You know what? If the Cowboys wind
Might
up
be
with
Hunter.
it... No, I think if the... Well, maybe. But I could also see...
It depends on how much you believe in Dak. You know, that's what
if it's the Cowboys, they could also get Shador.
They could.
And then...
Depends on how much they believe in Dak.
Fire McCarthy, and they're going to... You know them. If Shador comes here, who's going to come with him?
Well, not necessarily. They could still try to bring Bill in and be like, hey, look, Bill, look what
Bill is not going to work for the Cowboys.
You don't think so?
No, because Bill would want to be the GM as well, and that's Jerry's job.
True. That's true.
So
That's true.
I think they'd bring in, because Dion was a Cowboy, and it's his son, and he's doing well in college this year.
No, but didn't Dion just get a contract extension with Colorado like a year ago? I know they can. I know they can find a way to do that. I'm just saying, I feel like that would be kind of a slap in the face a little bit to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be the first person.
He wouldn't, but at the same time, I feel like he wouldn't do that. Like, I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't want to go to the NFL yet. I think he enjoys.
The college level as well. But
yeah.
I think if Bill offered him a huge chunk of money and the chance to coach his kid, he might take
it. But I don't know. It's such a different game, and he knows that, though. That's what I'm saying.
Knows that. That's what I'm saying.
Different game, he might not do it just because he knows it's so different.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's the end of the Cowboys season is effectively over at this point, I don't think. The only question is...
It's just silverware. Relax. You're hearing somebody put away silverware.
It is your turn, good sir.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Talked about that one already. Okay. Let's talk about... Let's talk about an absolutely abysmal blowout. The Patriots at the Bears.
Okay, that one. There were a couple of abysmal blowouts, so...
Yep. Patriots win 19-3.
Yeah.
I will say Drake May overall looked good. He didn't look amazing. They didn't ask him to do a lot either, to be fair. But he looked pretty good, actually. Drake May, 15 of 25, 184 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Rushing, Antonio Gibson, 5 for 26. Drake May, 4 for 24. Ramondre Stevenson, 20 for 74. Receiving, Austin Hooper, 3 for 64. Demario Douglas, 4 for 50. Hunter Henry, 1 for 14. Jalen Polk, 1 for 2 for touchdown. And Keyshawn Botte, 4 for 47.
Booty.
Is it Booty?
It is Booty.
Okay. Ben Brown fumbled the ball but did not lose it, and Marcus Jones fumbled the ball but did not lose it. No interceptions. Yes, I'm well aware that you are here. Hello. Anthony Jennings had 2 sacks. Brendan Schuler had 1 sack. Dietrich Wise had 2 sacks. Del Pettis had 1 sack. Jelani Tavai had 1 sack. Jeremiah Farms had 1 sack. Keon White had 1 sack for a total of 9 sacks on the night. Jesus. That defensive line was just murdering Caleb.
Yeah, that was a problem. They had 9 sacks on him.
9 sacks. Yeah.
And now they've got a new coordinator who engineered a very atrocious offensive line in Carolina. And
Yay!
I don't think
What
it's going
could
to
go wrong?
I don't think it's going to get any better for poor Caleb.
What are you talking about? It could only go up from here. Kicking, New England, Joey Sly, 4 for 4 for a long of 37 and 1 extra point. And no kickoff returns. New England had 3 punt returns by Marcus Jones for a long of 24. Let's go look at the Bears' abysmal stats in comparison because, yeah. Because those Patriot stats are like just not even good, really. They're just okay. That just tells you how bad the Bears played in reality.
Oh, Jesus.
So let's go take a look. Bears. Caleb Williams, 16 for 30. 120 yards. No touchdowns. No picks.
Yep.
Caleb Williams rushing, 2 for 15. DeAndre Swift, 16 for 59. That's it.
Yeah.
Receiving. Cole Kmet, 2 for 13. DJ Moore, 3 for 24. Keenan Allen, 5 for 44. Rome Odunze, 3 for 23. And that's pretty much it.
I believe this is also where DJ Moore just kind of walked off the field before a play was even over and sat down.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Just
quit. I'm done.
Now, there are apparently conflicting information about whether or not he actually thought the play was done or not, apparently. So
that doesn't matter. Even if he were to walk off the field after the play was done and just sit on the bench like that without even tapping out, Eberflus, you've lost the locker room.
Maybe. There was questions on if he was supposed to or not, is what I'm saying. Is that if that was the question of if he was actually supposed to, like, run this play, then get out and let somebody else in, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Because they do that setup sometimes, so there's questions on if that was a setup or not, and maybe he missed the setup or something.
Got it.
Or misunderstood.
Got
it. So it might not be a whole entire locker room situation. However, to be fair on that statement, I think it was this last press conference he did where somebody straight up asked him if he lost the locker room, and his answer was, "I'd like to say no," which basically implies yes.
I'd like to say no. Well, it also could be, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not 100% sure. I can't say 100% no. Yeah. I want to say no, but I don't know 100% that it is actually no. Yeah. But that still means that he willingly knows that there's a chance he's lost part of the locker room, if not all of it.
Yes.
Probably not all of it. Most coaches don't lose the entire locker rooms, but he's definitely lost some of it probably at this point.
Yeah, I think the only time we've ever really seen a full locker room loss would be Josh the Snake McDaniels.
Probably, actually, yeah.
Anyways.
TJ Edwards came away with an interception. Jacob Martin had 1 sack, and the only sack on the night. Cairo Santos was 1 for 1 on field goals for a long of 33. And DeAndre Carter had 1 kickoff return for 35 yards, and he had 1 punt return for 38 yards. And that was it from the Bears. Honestly, the Bears, I feel weird saying this because I think... Here's what I'll say. I think the Bears overall, even though they did just get slapped by the Patriots, I think are on an overall upward trajectory. I think they have a good quarterback that they just need to get settled with a good offensive line. I think he's got good wide receivers around him. I think he's got a decent defense if they can scheme a little bit better. Like, legitimately, I think that this is a team that is still trending up. It's just that this season is ending up kind of how we expected, though, which is a bit of a mess. Like, you're probably not going to win. You might come away with a 50-50 season at best. Definitely doesn't seem like that might not even happen at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to anymore.
But we all expected that this was going to be a rough season. At least I thought it was going to be anyways. I wasn't one of those people that was going to be like, oh my god, he's going to be, CJ Stroud or whatever, right? Jaden Daniels is having a magical season. Jaden Daniels is having the CJ Stroud. Kind of funny how the 2 overall picks, the guys that came.
But if you
Jaden
Stroud,
was 3, wasn't he?
Jaden
or was Jaden 2?
I don't remember if he was 2 or 3. I remember that because I know Drake.
I think Drake was 2.
I think Drake was 2, and I think Jaden was 3.
But still, it's funny how 2 years in a row now, the QBs that went after the first overall picks have had more success.
But now you look at CJ Stroud this year, and you see
why
he's kind of having a regression to the mean.
He's had some regression there. He's still doing well, but to be fair, they've also dealt with other injuries outside of that. They've had O-line injuries. They've had
and having Collins out
losing
for a
Diggs.
while, and
they had
O-line
for a while. They had Tank Dell out for a while. They had Mixon out for a while. Like, yeah. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, unfortunately, in their case, and they still managed to still find a pretty good record overall in comparison.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the Bears are climbing. I just think, as much as I hate to say it, I think end of season, if they haven't done it by then, they probably will by then. They need to move on from Eberflus, bring in a new head coach that can work directly with Caleb, maybe an offensive-minded one to help him out. Get a good defensive coordinator. Maybe. Hey, I've heard rumors that this might be the year where if the Bears really want to, it might be time to go over to Ben Johnson and go, hey, you want a blank check, buddy?
The problem is they're never gonna offer him a blank check. The owner of the Bears is not gonna open up the purse for that.
I know, but what I've heard is that from everything I've heard is that they should.
They should. They won't.
From everything I've heard is apparently Ben Johnson this is the year it sounds like he might walk to a team for a head coaching gig this offseason.
Yes.
Same thing with Brian Flores. Apparently this is the Brian Flores time. He's saying that he might actually walk for a head coaching gig if a good one comes available.
Yes, that I've also heard. But the problem is the Bears owner is not going to open up the paycheck book to get anybody big. He never does.
Oh, he should.
He should, but he never does because he's an idiot.
We'll see. We'll see if they finally have learned their lessons enough times yet.
This has been going on since the Jay Cutler era. No, they haven't.
No, I know. I'm just saying we'll see if maybe they finally figure it out or not. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying that that's the hope. That if they were in their right mind and they had the ability to, bringing in a Ben Johnson, for example, would be the most beneficial thing they could do for Caleb.
I agree.
Now, whether or not they will do that or have the money to afford to be able to do that outside of somebody else coming and picking him up, like, I don't think the Panthers could even afford him with how much he'd ask for him, but like the Giants' job might become available. The Jaguars' job probably will become available.
The Cowboys' job will probably
is going to come available. Yeah. Like we pointed out, the Bears' job actually will become available, and it isn't actually the worst landing spot as far as
it looks like the
what's
Saints
available
job
to you as a head coach.
Might be available. It depends on if they keep their interim.
If they keep their interim or not. Yep.
The Jets'
Oakland might be, or not Oakland. Sorry, I always want to say Oakland. The Raiders' job might be opening up. We'll see.
The Jets' job is also going to probably be open.
Potentially, yeah.
But
I don't think they'll keep their interim either. Who wants that job? Yeah.
Toxic ass job.
Also, from what I've heard from the Colts camp, that might not be entirely an impossibility either, because when you have players come out and say that, players aren't playing hard or trying hard or really trying, that's not a good sign that your coach is holding down the locker room.
Speaking of the Jets, let's continue with the I got myself crushed this week listing here, because we kind of started already with Dallas.
Yeah, we
and
already
then
went
you,
down that.
Yeah, you continued with Chicago. So I'm going to go over to Arizona, where the Jets went into Arizona and got blasted out 31-6. You picked the Jets.
I'm so sorry.
I picked the Cardinals. This is probably
I don't know why. This is one of those moments for me where I'm like, I dark horse the Cardinals to win their entire division, and I picked the Jets over them. I'm fucking stupid.
you
That was
thought their
basically what this-
defense was really good and could
To
hold
be
the
fair,
Cardinals down.
the defense was playing well up until that point.
Yes.
This game, man. Oof.
Let's talk about it. Aaron Rodgers, 22 of 35, 151 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Sacked 3 times for 23 yards. Brees Hall, 10 carries, 52 yards. Braylon Allen, 7 carries, 27 yards. Could not get a ground game going. Garrett Wilson, 5 catches, 41 yards. Brees Hall, 4 for 31. Devontae Adams, 6 for 31, which doesn't sound bad until you realize he was targeted 13 times. And only came down with 6 of them. Jeremy Ruckert, 2 for 17. Isaiah Davis, 1 for 10. Conklin, 1 for 8. Braylon Allen, 1 for 7. Kenny Yeboah, 1 for 4. Malachi Corley, 1 for 2. Xavier Gibson did not haul in his only target. And Aaron Rodgers also fumbled and lost the fumble. In terms of sacks, they only had one, and it was Quincy Williams, and he attempted to murder Kyler Murray on that sack. It was fucking vicious. Murray got hit so hard, his helmet came off. And, literally Williams was trying to behead him. But in terms of overall tackles, Jamie and Sherwood, 17 total, 7 solo. Obviously no interceptions. They did not have any kick returns. They had no punt returns. Spencer Schrader had 2 field goals, 2 of 2, with a long of 45. And that's pretty much it. On the flip side, Kyler, 22 of 24, 266 yards and a touchdown. Sacked once, obviously, for that 7 yards. Rushing, Trey Benson, 10 for 62. James Conner, 12 for 33 and a touchdown. Imari DiMarcado, 3 for 22. Murray, 3 for 21 and 2 touchdowns. DJ Dallas, 3 for 10. Clayton Tune, 1 for -1. Receiving, James Conner, 5 for 80. Trey McBride, 4 for 71. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 for 54 and a touchdown. Trey Benson, 2 for 25. Michael Wilson, 3 for 24. Elijah Higgins, 2 for 12. Greg Dortch, 1 for -1. Murray did fumble but recovered, and Kaiser White recovered the fumble from Aaron Rodgers. In terms of defense, Budda Baker led the way, 9 total tackles, 6 of them were solo. Your sacks came from, let me see here, you had 3 of them. Baker had a sack. Jesse Lukita had a sack, and Xavier Thomas had a sack. They did not have any interceptions. They had no kick or punt returns. Chad Ryland kicked 1 field goal for 37 yards and was 4 of 4 on extra points. The Jets went to the desert and got shellacked. They couldn't stop Kyler. Kyler ran on them. Kyler threw on them. They didn't have any good answers. They had no answers for James Conner, who was a receiving threat as well as a rushing threat. They had nothing that they could do to stop this. Their defense looked utterly lost. Rodgers looked like crap. Devontae Adams looked completely lost in trying to catch the ball. This was not a good game for the Jets. This was probably the worst game I've seen them play all season. And they've played some doozies. At this point, I think the Jets realized that Rodgers sold them a bale of goods that had more weeds than flax. If anybody understands that particular idiom. So, yeah. Not good. The Jets, I don't think, are going to come anywhere close to the playoffs this year. Your turn.
Okay. Oopsies. Dropping things, dropping things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look. What do we got left here? No more stomps left, but we'll go with this one because it's the next closest in my opinion. Let's go talk about Tennessee at Chargers. Chargers win 27-17.
We both picked the Chargers.
Let's take a look at the Titans' stats. Will Levis, 18 of 23, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Pretty good game overall, to be honest with you. Rushing, Tony Pollard, 9 for 44. Tyjae Spears, 7 for 47. Will Levis, 5 for 41. Receiving, Bryce Oliver, 2 for 23. Calvin Ridley, 5 for 84 and 2 touchdowns. Chigaquanko, 1 for 14. Nick Westbrook Ikine, 3 for 31. Tony Pollard, 4 for 19. Will Levis did fumble, but did not lose the ball. No interceptions. And no sacks on the night, unfortunately. Nick Folk was 1 for 2 on field goals for a long of 27, 2 for 2 on extra points. Jaquan Jackson had 1 kickoff return for 27 yards, and Julius Chestnut had 2 kickoff returns for a long of 32. No punt returns from Tennessee. Let's go look at the Chargers now. Dog, you are loud. No, stop. Justin Herbert, 14 for 18 for 164 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Rushing, Gus Edwards, 10 for 55. Hassan Haskins, 2 for 4 and 1 touchdown. J.K. Dobbins, 15 for 50. Justin Herbert, 9 for 32 and a touchdown. Receiving, Darius Davis, 1 for 17. Josh Palmer, 1 for 36. Lad McConkey, 2 for 52. Quentin Johnston, 2 for 24 and a touchdown. And Will Disley, 5 for 30. No fumbles, no interceptions. Bud Dupree had 2 sacks. Diane, I think it's Diane, had 1 sack. Joey Bosa had 1 sack. Puna Ford had 1 sack. And Tuli Tupeluto, I don't know. That's, for some reason, my tongue's not making that work. I've done it before, but for some reason, it's not working today. You have 2 sacks as well for a total of 7 sacks on the night. Kicking, Cameron Dicker, the kicker, was 2 for 2 on field goals for a long of 37 and 3 for 3 on extra points. Kickoff returns, Darius Davis had 1 return for 56 yards, and he had 2 punt returns for a long of 8. So overall, pretty good actually from both sides. Chargers just basically ground and pounded the ball and more or less ran out time, kept it pretty, took a pretty easy lead, and then from there, more or less from the looks of it, looks like they just wanted to eat clock, and that's what they did. Because the Titans weren't playing poorly, the Chargers just didn't give them a lot of time with the ball.
Yeah, that's how kind of Harbaugh's offense works.
It's kind of how he likes to play. Yeah.
Yep, he likes to run the ball and he likes to chew time and he doesn't want to give you time with the ball to beat him.
Basically, he's one of those guys who'll like give us a two possession lead. Now we're chewing clock.
Yep.
Like that's
100% how it works. I'm going to go down the field. I'm going to get a couple of possessions lead. I want to get 2-score lead. If I have a 2-score lead, we're going to just chew clock for the game.
Yep.
All right. 2 left before the night games.
Correct, sir. Which one are you taking?
You know what? I'm going to take Buffalo at Indianapolis.
Okay.
So the Bills go to the Colts, and we both picked the Bills, and the Bills do walk away with a 30-20 victory. Although it wasn't a pretty win. And neither side's quarterback apparently could throw to the right team. Let's talk about it. Josh Allen, 22 of 37, 280 yards, 2 picks. Sacked twice. Didn't lose any yards, though. 2 picks. Really, Josh? They're entirely different color uniforms. Come on now. James Cook did run 19 times for 80 yards and a touchdown. Allen does partially redeem himself by running 8 times for 50 yards and a touchdown. By the way, he's now, I want to say, third all time on the Bills rushing list behind O.J. Simpson and Thurman Thomas. And he's a quarterback.
Okay, what are you doing?
Ray Davis ran 3 times for 6 yards, and Mitchell Trubisky got 1 for -1. Hey, he's still in the league?
Apparently.
Receiving, Mac Hollins 4 for 86, Khalil Shakir 6 for 58, Dawson Knox 2 for 40, Curtis Samuel 4 for 35, Ty Johnson 3 for 32, Kincaid 2 for 24, and James Cook 1 for 5. Brandon Codrington did fumble. DeMar Hamlin recovered a fumble, and Alec Anderson recovered a fumble. In terms of defense, Dorian Williams leads the way with 9 total tackles. 6 of them were solo. Greg Rousseau gets a sack. Taron Johnson gets a sack. AJ Apenza gets a sack. Quentin Jefferson gets a sack. For the total of 4 sacks that they did have. Interceptions, Taron Johnson picked one off, went 23 yards for a touchdown. Austin Johnson had an interception, and Taylor Rapp had an interception. Brandon Codrington did have 2 kick returns, total of 49 yards with a long of 26. He also had 1 punt return for 8 yards. Tyler Bass, 3 for 3 on field goals, long of 47, and 3 for 3 on extra points. The Colts. Joe Wacko Flacco, 26 of 35, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, 4 sacks. Lost 32 yards in those sacks. Jonathan Taylor, the one guy who actually showed up to play. 21 carries, 114 yards. Unfortunately, did not punch it into the end zone carrying it. Ashton Doolin also had 1 carry for 7 yards. Receiving, Alec Pierce, 4 for 81 and a touchdown. Josh Downs, 7 for 72. Adonai Mitchell, 6 for 71. Kylan Granson, 2 for 15. Will Mallory, 1 for 10. Tyler Goodson, 2 for 9 and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, 2 for 8. Trey Sermon, 1 for 4. And Drew Ogletree, 1 for 2. Joe Flacco also fumbled and lost the football. Adonai Mitchell fumbled. And Josh Downs with a fumble recovery. Nick Cross, again, keep saying that name. 12 total tackles, 7 of them were solo. The sacks came from Grover Stewart and Kwity Paye. Both names we've said quite a bit in terms of the sack of everything. EJ Speed had a pick, and Kenny Moore II had a pick. They did not have any kick or punt returns. Matt Gay, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 27, and 2 for 2 on extra points. I don't know what to tell you, man. Flacco just doesn't have the magic he did last year with the Browns. Those 3 interceptions were killer, and that fumble, he literally killed his team's chances to win. So, anyway, your turn. Why don't you talk about the Niners and the Bucks?
Okay, I guess I can do that. 49ers win 23-20.
You picked the Niners. I picked the Bucks.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at stats. Start with 49ers. Brock Purdy, 25 of 36, 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Rushing, Brock Purdy, 4 for 17. Christian McCaffrey, 13 for 39. Deebo Samuel, 3 for 14. Looking over at receiving, we have Christian McCaffrey, 6 for 68. Deebo Samuel, 5 for 62. George Kittle, 3 for 57 and a touchdown. Jawan Jennings, 7 for 93. And Ricky Pearsall, 4 for 73 and a touchdown. Fumbles, Brock Purdy fumbled but did not lose. Jacob Cowing did fumble and lose the ball, unfortunately. No interceptions. Malik Collins had 1 sack, and Nick Bosa had a sack for a total of 2 sacks on the night. Jake Moody was 3 for 6 on kicking for a long of 44 and 2 for 2 on extra points. Ronnie Bale had 1 kickoff return for 23 yards, and Jacob Cowing had 3 punt returns for a long of 30. Let's go look at the Bucs stats. Come on. Here we go. Baker Mayfield, 18 of 29, 116 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Rushing, Bucky Irving, 13 for 73 and a touchdown. Rashad White, 10 for 31. Receiving, Kadon, 5 for 35. Rashad White, 6 for 39 and a touchdown. And that's pretty much it. Not a lot of passing, actually. Fumbles, Baker Mayfield he fumbled the ball 3 times. Didn't lose them, but fumbled them 3 times. No interceptions. Kalijah Kancey had 1 sack. Greg Gaines had 1 sack. Joe Tryon, I don't know how to say your last part of your name, had 1 sack.
Joe Tryon Sharinka.
Sharinka, yep. He had 1 sack as well, for a total of 3 sacks on the night. Chase McLaughlin had 2 for 2 on field goals for a long of 30 and 2 for 2 on extra points. No kickoff returns and no punt returns. Overall, a very close game. 49ers just ended up squeaking out a victory.
Pretty much. I thought that, you could definitely see they looked like a bit of a different team with CMC back.
A little bit of it.
Yeah. I will also say, I'm not as down on the Ricky Pearsall pick as I was when they first made that pick. He looks pretty good. Also, the fact that he got shot and has now scored a touchdown, I'm pretty happy about. I could say the same for Tank Dell. Good job to both of them. Speaking of Tank Dell, I'm going to take the Sunday night game. I'm going to talk about the Lions at the Texans.
That's fine.
Oh boy. We both picked the Lions. Lions do come away with the win, 26-23, but I think this was the ugliest game of the week.
It's arguable.
It wasn't the most boring, but it was definitely ugly, as neither team really wanted the ball. In fact, but I will say that will be challenged by your Monday night game, because there was a whole sequence of events there where both teams looked like the football had been greased. But let's talk about it. Jared Goff, we talked about you being in the MVP conversation. And then you go and do 15 of 30 for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That was horrible game, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's the worst game I think you've ever played in your career. And you still won. Jahmyr Gibbs, 19 carries, 71 yards. David Montgomery, 12 for 32 and a touchdown. Goff, 1 for 2. Laporta, 3 catches, 66 yards and a touchdown, and an AC joint injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 60 and a touchdown. Jamison Williams, 3 for 53. Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 for 37. Montgomery, 1 for 24. Montgomery also fumbled, but he did recover it. Branch leads the way on defense with 10 total tackles. 6 of them were solo. Aleem McNeil with a sack. Josh Paschal with a sack. Pat O'Connor with a sack. And James Houston with a sack, for a total of 4 sacks on the night. Carlton Davis III did have 2 picks, one of them gorgeously in the end zone. Detroit did not have a kick return. Khalif Raymond had 3 punt returns for a total of 15 yards with a long of 14. And Jake Bates hit 2 field goals, one to tie the game of 58 yards and one to win the game of 52 yards. And both of them, the first one, he just squoze just that much inside the right upright, and the other one was this much inside the left upright. Like, each of them, the uprights could have reached out and touched the ball as it was going by. Like, you're talking hair shaves there. But he made them. So, The Texans, CJ Stroud, 19 of 33, 232 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks, sacked 4 times for a loss of 40 yards. Mixon ran the ball 25 times for 46 yards and a touchdown. Daria Gumbawale got 1 carry for 11 yards. Stroud had 1 for 5, and Dell had 1 for -6. John Mechie III had 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz had 3 for 66. Mixon had 2 for 44. Dell had 5 for 39. Hutchinson had 2 for 6. Xavier Hutchinson. Cade Stover had 1 for 2. And Robert Woods had 1 for 1. CJ Stroud fumbled. Titus Howard recovered. In terms of defense, Aziz El-Shair led the way. 8 total tackles. 5 of them were solo. There were no sacks. The interceptions. Kamari Lassiter had 2. Jimmy Ward had 1. Henry To'o had 1. And Kalen Bullock had 1. They did get a pair of touchdowns from Jimmy Ward. Or no, 2 yards, pardon. Not touchdowns. They had 2 yards off of Jimmy Ward. None of the rest actually went back for any gain. They did not have any kick returns. Steven Sims had 3 punt returns for a total of 43 yards with a long of 17. Fairbairn, 3 of 4 with a long of 56. And that 58-yarder he missed that would have put them up with just under a minute to play. You could have driven a truck through the gap between that and the upright. It was pretty big. He shanked it pretty far to the left. Was not a pretty kick. I will say the snap was high. It probably threw the timing off. But that was also a 58-yarder that he could not hit. Now, I think that the problem was at the end of this game, as they were going for the first down before attempting that 58-yarder, Stroud threw one over the middle. It was missed. The receiver did not catch it, but there was blatant pass interference as the Detroit defender came over the top and connected before the pass got there. It was pretty blatant. It was pretty obvious to see, and it didn't get flagged or called. And it should have been. So again, officials, what the fuck are you doing? But it was a bang-bang play. I do understand. And again, I feel like the eye in the sky should have called down for a review because you're within the final 2 minutes. But they didn't even call down. So I feel like something should have been done there, and nothing was, unfortunately for all of us. Regardless, Detroit wins a very ugly performance by them. They did not have a very good performance at all. I am given to understand that they gave their new pass rushing acquisition the week off. He did not play in this game because this would have been Cleveland's week off, and so they allowed him to have his rest week, like he would have had were he still a Cleveland Brown. And you know what? That's a class act. That's a class act by a class organization. Know what I mean? All right. That's all I got to say about that. Lions do win, but it wasn't pretty. Also, what the fuck, Texans? You didn't even score a point in the second half of the game.
Not at all. They weren't even trying.
No. Your turn.
Oakley dokley. Hello, Lookie. Let's talk about Miami at Rams. Miami wins 23-15.
I picked the Dolphins. You picked the Rams.
It was a game. It
wasn't
happened.
as much of a shootout as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, let's look at stats. Tua Tagovailoa, 20 for 28, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Rushing, Devon Achane, 12 for 37. Malik Washington, 1 for 18 and a touchdown. And Tyreek Hill, 2 for 11. Receiving, Jalen Waddle, 3 for 57. Jonnu Smith, 3 for 45. Odell Beckham Jr., 2 for 17. Tyreek Hill, 3 for 16 and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert, 2 for 34. Tua fumbled and lost the ball. Anthony Walker intercepted the ball. Calais Campbell had a sack. Chop Robinson had a sack. Chop. Javon Holland had a sack. Quentin Bell had a sack. 4 sacks on the night.
I will also say, for Calais, at least one of the interceptions thrown by Stafford was because Calais Campbell got a mid on it.
Yeah.
He had his mid on at least 2 passes, one of which was picked.
Yeah.
The other one should have been.
Kicking, Jason Sanders 3 for 3 on field goals for a long of 50 and 2 for 2 on extra points.
Yay!
No kickoff returns, and Malik Washington had 3 punt returns for a long of 12. Let's go look at the Rams. Rams. Matthew Stafford, 32 of 46, 293 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Rushing, Kyrie Williams, 15 for 62. Receiving, Cooper Kupp, 7 for 80. Davis Allen, 5 for 34. DeMarcus Robinson, 1 for 23. Kyrie Williams, 5 for 20. Puka Nacua, 9 for 98. Tutu Atwell, 1 for 6. And Tyler Johnson, 3 for 25. Kyrie Williams did fumble and lose the ball.
They were throwing the ball around pretty good. Just couldn't get anything out of it.
Never could get anything out of it, yeah. Matthew Stafford fumbled the ball twice but did not lose it. Christian Roseboom intercepted the ball. Byron Young had 1 sack. Jared Verse had a sack.
And a fumble recovery.
Kobe Turner had a sack for 3 sacks. Kicking, Joshua Carty, 5 for 6 for a long of 55, no extra points. Jordan Whittington had 1 kickoff return for 25 yards, and Xavier Smith had 1 kickoff return for 15 yards. No punt returns. So yeah, this was one of those games where I felt the Rams had a lot of opportunities, and then they kept moving the ball about like halfway down the field, and then they would get stuffed. Or there was, in that second half, there was like a set of drives that was like an interception. There was a fumble into an interception, into another interception, into a fumble or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, there was something where one team fumbled, then there was like an interception, and then there was another interception, then there was another fumble, and you're just like, I actually texted you at that point. I was like, is the ball greased?
Yeah, and then nobody was catching the ball. The second half was ugly for most of it until like towards the fourth quarter when they both started picking up again, but then it was like far too late at that point. I don't know. It was one of those games where the Rams had plenty of opportunities to win. The Dolphins weren't playing all that well, but they had opportunities to themselves also close up the game even more. It was an ugly game not because of the score, because they both obviously played well enough, but it was more about like each team left a lot of points on the board. Like this should have been a
lot of dumb mistakes.
Yeah, this should have been a higher scoring shootout game.
Should have been.
Just both teams just made a lot of fucking stupid mistakes.
I agree with you.
Just a lot.
I will say, we tie this week. We split on 4 games, and we tie. Which, you know what? Okay, sure. Why not? We'll get to next week here eventually, but first, I think we got to tell some people that they stink and need to hit the showers.
Okily dokily.
You want me to start, or you want to start?
It doesn't really bother me either way.
I'll start. Jared Goff, stinky poo, hit the showers.
That's fair. Aaron Rodgers, hit the showers.
Sam Darnold, stinky poo, go hit the showers, clean up, buddy.
I guess I'll go with Caleb Williams. Hit showers.
Okay. My last one, the Dallas Cowboys. The whole organization, Jerry down. Like, just get into a shower and stay there the rest of the season. Just right in there, buddy. I feel bad for Brandon Aubrey, but at this point, their stink has infected you. Get in the shower.
That's fine. I'm gonna go with. You go with Brees Hall. Hit the showers. You've just been too inconsistent for so long.
Gotcha.
Getting tired of it.
That makes sense.
Getting tired of it.
Ready for the Inferno?
Sure.
Let's do the Inferno. Alright, Inferno time. Starting on my low end. Aaron Rodgers. Welcome to the fourth circle of the Inferno. You have sold the Jets on you being a savior, when in reality, you're a washed-up has-been.
I mean, based on this season, it kind of comes across that way. We'll see. We'll see how long that lasts for. Mm-hmm. Sounds like he's playing next year. So, I guess. Yeah. Sitting in my third circle, I have Brian Dable. I feel bad for doing this, but, like, dog. Really? Do I need to... I don't need to say why, do I? Pretty obvious, right?
Sitting in my sixth circle, I have Doug Peterson. You might make it through the season, but you're gone at the end of the year. You know that, right?
I feel like you are being too nice. I have in my 10th circle Doug Peterson. Dude, Vikings didn't score a single touchdown. You should not have lost. Honestly, you had so many opportunities. I don't care if you were playing Mac Jones. You still had opportunities. You do not have a job next year. The fact that you still have a job is a fucking miracle, and I imagine the only reason you have that is because people are like, yeah, but Trevor Lawrence didn't play, so, you know, me.
Well, see, for me, my 10th circle is currently occupied by Matt Eberflus. Look, let's not pretend that firing the offensive coordinator is going to save your job.
Please.
Nope, you're done. You know it too, I think.
Well, that's okay. Well, that's okay, because I have another 10th circle. The first time I've ever done that. Jerry Jones, you're still here, motherfucker. I swear, every week the Cowboys got something new in the goddamn news cycle, and 9 times out of 10, it's something you goddamn said. Dumb motherfucker, learn to shut your goddamn mouth.
All right. Let's see here. Game balls?
Sure.
You can start.
Oh boy, why would you do that to me? Do you want to go for first? Wasn't a big fan of Patrick Mahomes this week. Jared Goff played like ass. CJ Stroud didn't do well. Not a big fan of that. I mean, I know there's an obvious one here. Hold on.
It's a couple of very obvious ones, if you ask
me.
No,
I know there's a couple of very, very obvious ones, but I always like to double check to make sure that I'm not missing anybody. Du-du-du-du-du-du-du. Well, let's go with. Do I want to go with that one, or do I want to go with? You know what? We'll go with. I mean, I don't want to pick from the same team, so I'll go with one of them, and I'll go with Jamar Chase. You get a game ball, sir.
My first one is not going to be his teammate, although he's on my list. It's going to be Jake the Brickman Bates. Game ball, sir.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Game ball.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's very, very fair. I get that.
Game-winning field goal, 52 yards, and a 58-yarder to tie it. My sir, you get a game ball. You represent Detroit.
Lamar Jackson, game ball.
All right. Joe Burrow, game ball. You lost, but
Fair enough.
damn, were you close.
4 touchdowns, man. No picks. Played well, you know.
He did.
Chuba Hubbard, game ball.
He was on my list, so I'll take the last one that's on my list. Kyler Murray, game ball.
That's fair.
Yep. He was on my list, by the way. Chuba was.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to be the next one I grabbed if you didn't. Okay. Let's see here. Potatoes Power Rankings next week. Hoffer Hog. NHL Power Rankings. Call it?
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Alrighty. Potatoes.
Hey! Hey! Boogie! That's enough. Little shoot ahead.
Chewing on his blanket again?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Do you want to start this, or do you want me to start this one?
You can start it.
Alright, I'm going to start with one I think you may have already had this year, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to go in on it right now. Maybe, just maybe, the Steelers going to the Super Bowl?
Steelers going to the Super Bowl?
Steelers going to the Super Bowl?
Maybe Steelers going to the Super Bowl. I feel like that's a little early to be saying, but they do have a real shot at it, and I think definitely if you would have dumbed it one down and won the AFC Championship, I would have been like, yeah, I can definitely eat that. Super Bowl, still a lot like I said last week. I think when we did a similar discussion, it's a lot of good AFC teams right now. There's a lot that they have to run through to get there, so I don't want to hedge too many bets on that.
All right.
But they do have a very good odds, especially in comparison to the start of the season, for sure.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna hold that one. That's a good one. Maybe, just maybe, the Giants end up with the first overall pick.
The Giants. Who are the other 2-7 teams?
Jacksonville, and I think the Panthers are at 3 wins now. So
The Panthers are at 3 wins.
I know Jacksonville's at 2.
Cleveland's at 2.
Cleveland, I believe. Yeah.
Tennessee, Cleveland, Jacksonville,
TNC as well. Yep.
Las Vegas,
Oh, Vegas, that's right. Yeah.
New York. Yeah, that's it.
Ooh, what about the Cowboys?
Cowboys are
The Cowboys have
3
3?
wins,
Okay, yeah,
but they do still have to play the Giants.
that's true.
So based on that alone, and the fact that there's no more Dak, I'm gonna say no.
You
Because
reckon the Cowboys are going to have the first?
Giants. No, the Cowboys are gonna have the first overall pick, but I think the Giants are gonna beat the Cowboys at least once.
Oh, you think? Okay, fair enough. So you think it's one of the other teams?
Yeah. I'm gonna go with either Cleveland, maybe. Well, Cleveland might get better now. Vegas, probably. If you really want an answer to that.
Yeah, either them or Jacksonville right now, probably.
Yeah, either them or Jacksonville's going to wind up with the first overall pick. And if it's Jacksonville, they obviously have to take Hunter. There's no question.
Oh, yeah.
Vegas obviously needs a quarterback. Yeah. This one's a little spicy, but just hear me out. Maybe, just maybe, Sam Darnold is exactly who we thought he was. And that is, he might win you a game every so often, but don't count on it. And he probably normally will do just enough not to lose you a game.
So I'm in 2 minds here. So I will say yes, but no. And I'll explain myself. I will say that he's exactly what you and I thought he was at the beginning of the season. A bridge quarterback that can win you a couple of games, maybe a little bit. I mean, he's definitely a little bit better than that. Like originally we were saying 500. I think we will end up higher than 500 at this point, obviously.
We will. But my feeling is that he is, at best, a mediocre starting quarterback.
He's a slightly above average quarterback at moments. The problem is he's inconsistent. So he goes from slightly above average to slightly below average.
Which is why I said overall he's
rather
a
than
mediocre starter. If you have
I
enough talent around him.
But the reason why I want to say no at the same time is simply due to the fact that it is because of the inconsistency. He could rise above that still. And on top of that, the reason why I want to say no mostly is, well, I agree with you and my take on it. The mass media's take on it, as far as football is concerned, is that he was garbage. He was a complete bust. He's not that either, right? So I don't want to agree that he's exactly what you and I thought he was. He's not exactly what everyone else thought he was.
Yeah, but he's certainly not second or third overall pick.
No, he's. I would say you could argue first overall towards the bottom if you wanted to. Second, not second over. No, sorry, when I say I mean
first round, bottom of the first round.
First rounder. Yeah, but you could definitely make a real argument to be like, no, probably closer to a second
rounder. Yeah.
Second rounder, probably high second rounder.
Yeah, mid
like
to
pretty
high
good,
round.
and can definitely ball out, and still has a chance to improve more. Still in the right place. The problem is he's still young, yes, but he will get to a point where it's like, okay, he's like what 28. By the time you hit 30, you expect that he's going to have peaked pretty much, or already peaked, or maybe potentially even peaking at the moment. Like, is this the best you're going to get out of Sam? This might be the best you get. So, which can still take you to playoffs. That's not bad. But you got to know what your limitations are.
Yep.
You know. So, yeah, I would say he's a little bit better than what you and I originally thought. But he isn't. He's not by much. Like it's pretty close to what we kind of expected. A 9-10 win kind of quarterback with a really good pieces around him. Which, yeah, with moments that look a lot better than that. To be fair, he definitely can show games where he looks like that college quarterback. I don't know why he can't consistently do that. I don't know if it's defenses. I don't know if it's scheming. I don't know what it is. But there definitely are moments where you're like, wow, that's that college QB everyone thought.
Yep.
And there are other moments where you're like, wow, that's the QB we saw when he was at the Jets. Jesus Christ. That was last week. This last week game was like, holy shit, this looks like the QB.
He looks like
for
he's
the
seeing
Jets.
ghosts on the
Fuck.
field.
Yeah, this looks like the Jets quarterback. What the fuck? So, yeah, that's my 2 minds on it. I'll say I overall agree. If we're talking our opinions on it, if we're talking the mass media's opinion on it, or the mass football media's opinion on it, I would disagree. All right. Maybe, just maybe, bad organizations will just stay bad organizations no matter how good of players you put in them because of ownership.
See, you had me until ownership, and I don't always think it's ownership. Sometimes it
Now,
is.
now the reason why I say that is almost, I'm talking about historically. So we look at Panthers, right? Ever since they've gotten that owner, historically they have looked bad, and they would do better with the new owner. Redskins, who are now Commanders, had historic problems under Dan Snyder. The season that he's not here anymore, all of a sudden they started looking better, and now the full season looks really good. The Jets, I bet you, if Woody was no longer the owner and they had to get a new owner, they would immediately have a turnaround within a season or two and look amazing again. Like, it just feels like the problem too often comes from the top down.
There is a set of that. Sometimes though, it's because the owner is there's a difference.
Like Cowboys, I bet the Cowboys would have more success if Jerry Jones was willing to move on.
Maybe a little bit, but the problem is sometimes some owners are too hands-on, some are too hands-off. The Bears owner, he hires a GM to run the team for him, and he just kind of, I don't really want to deal with the football stuff. I own the team. It's
Yes.
like a little toy. I don't want to deal with it. You guys deal with it. I just want to say I'm the owner. So I think teams need owners that are somewhat invested, but not overly invested. Jerry.
That's the problem I was going to say, is the biggest issue. So the Bears is one of the weird outliers in their cases. In most situations, from what I've seen, is owners will come in, they'll hire people to take care of everything, things will start going south, and bad owners will start meddling and won't stop meddling. Because they'll feel like that they have to get involved, because look, the people I hired clearly don't know what they're doing. Rather than going, oh, maybe that was just the wrong hire and I need to hire a different person to handle this. Too many of their fingers involved.
Yeah.
And will never pull their fingers back.
Sometimes people figure it out. It's happened before. It'll probably happen again at some point for a lot of teams. Like the Houston Texans were a bad team for a long time, but they're still under the same owner, and they've righted the ship.
To be fair, that was due to some people having too many fingers into too many pies.
Yes, but they've righted the ship. The Arizona Cardinals were a bad team for a long time and seemed to be trending back in the right direction, and I believe still under the same ownership.
I think it's technically the same ownership, but there have been some top-down changes, slightly. A lot of head office changes from what I heard.
Yes, and there are teams that are like that. They have bad times, and then they
sometimes owners can figure it out. Yes, I'm just saying it feels like more.
Detroit was under the Ford family forever, and they still technically are.
Different, to be fair.
Yes, but it's still the Ford family ownership. And again,
different people who have learned from previous, to be fair.
Exactly.
And
so I can't always say it's ownership, but I can say
that
there is a definite thing there of bad organizations making bad hires in the front office, who then make bad hires as coaches and pick bad players in the draft, and things never change. Yeah. I can definitely say, I don't always believe it's ownership, but I definitely believe that bad organizations stay bad because bad decisions are always made in terms of GMs and other things.
To be fair, that you can still argue that that's still on the owner to know.
Yeah, to pick the GM.
So that's still technically the owner's fault.
Yeah, theoretically, yeah. So yeah, bad teams are cursed to stay bad.
I mean, they might not be as active about it, but that's just it's almost like the idea of making no decision is still a decision. Like
they have to. So I think that these owners sometimes need to figure out who's a good GM and who isn't, and they just sometimes they don't get it right, and some people try to give them too long a rope, and some organizations are just going to stay bad. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is, and the fans of those teams are just, until you get a new owner who's got the balls to do some things, you're just never going to be good again.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, maybe, just maybe, Green Bay was bloody brilliant for letting go of both McCarthy and Rodgers when they did. If you look at Rodgers in Green Bay currently, or not Green Bay,
the funny thing I was going to say is, in general, if you look at the timing of when they get rid of their players, most of the time it's the right timing. I mean, Favre, when they got rid of Favre, you could argue maybe they could have gotten a couple more years out of him, but it wasn't that far removed. When they get rid of running backs quite often, I mean, like Eddie Lacy, for a great example, typically they're not that far removed from being almost quote-unquote used up. Aaron Jones, I would say, is a rare example because they just happen to be able to go out and get Jacobs, and so they were like, well, it's kind of hard to pay you both. So that was one of those rare examples where they let go somebody a little earlier than I think they normally would have.
They don't normally.
But
Donald Driver, I believe, was another one who was one of theirs, and there was
in general
Darren Sharper.
Yeah, I was gonna say in general they like to bring in talent. They like to bring in fairly unknown talent from the draft. Sometimes they'll pick up some higher stuff, but most time it's lower stuff. And then they like to train them up in their own system, and then from there make them big, and then use them until they think that they've tapped them dry. And for whatever reason, they always seem to know when the fall off is starting to happen. I don't know if they can just tell by the stats. I don't know who they got in their office that can just knows. But for whatever reason, they got those couple of people on the staff that always are watching, who somehow just know when the players start falling off a little bit, start slowing down, and then that's when they make the trades.
You know what?
And it's almost always towards like it's always towards the end of a peak, right? Quite often you'll see them peaking. It'll be towards the back half of a peak or towards the end of a peak. Like Rodgers was still coming off an MVP caliber season, so people were like, "Wow, this is weird that you'd be willing to trade him." But granted, we already heard that there were some weird rumors. But then there was like the Aaron Jones or the Brett Favre one of the Jets, where like some of that stuff was just like, "Wow, they are making some interesting decisions." And then you realize most of the time, even though they're not getting a lot back in return all of the time, most of the time it's still good business decisions. Like it's just,
and that's what I'm trying to get at. Is it's weird because they're not afraid of making a mistake by trading or releasing a player a little early, because they know that they're going to be right sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how they have up. I don't know how it works, but they always somehow manage to survive. It seems like whatever concoction they figured out in Green Bay, they
know
continued doing it.
Yeah.
Works. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's always been that way. So yeah, no, every time they've let go of a player, most of the time I'm like, okay, that player maybe has 1 or 2 seasons left. They know exactly what they're doing. Like most of the time, there's very few times where the Green Bay has done something where I've gone, this is a dumb decision. Outside of like the drafting of their QBs and how they've always handled the QBs, I've always looked at like as a weird how they do it, how it works out for them. I always like outside looking in. Any other team tries doing some of the things they do, and it would never work.
Yeah,
but they always find a way to make it work. I don't know. But yeah, no, that's I've said that for a while. That's I'm not surprised by that at all.
All right. Give me your third.
My third, maybe, just maybe, before the end of the season, there'll be 3 more head coaches fired.
I think 3 is too much for me to swallow. I could go with 2.
Fair enough.
But I think 3 is a bit much.
That's fair.
Because sadly, I think McCarthy hangs on to his job until the end of the season.
It's very possible.
And I think Peterson hangs on to his job until the end of the season. Dable, maybe. Eberflus, maybe. Should be gone already, but they fired the OC.
Should be already,
yeah, they fired the OC as a sacrifice there, so he might hang on to his job until the end of the season.
Yep.
And I can't think of anybody else that's an immediate, like, fire you now danger. Sirianni was, but he's got on a win streak, so he's off the hot seat.
Yeah, they found a way to pull it out. Yeah. Despite him, I think, to be honest, but that's just me.
You know, whatever works. All right. So no, 2 maybe, 3 is too much.
Fair enough.
Ready for the power rankings?
Sure.
Let's do the power rankings. The rankings of power.
The power of rankings.
All right, I'll go ahead and start this week. I didn't do it, but I wanted to make a list of teams that have never been on my rankings before. And this team would now come off that list and go into the power rankings for the first time ever. Welcome to the Arizona Cardinals at my number 10 slot.
Jesus.
There's...
I think my froze for a second, and then it all played everything at once, and now you're slowly coming back. Okay, there we go. Now you're back in focus. Yeah, all I heard was nothing, and all of a sudden, all at once. And I think it caught Cardinals in there at some point.
Okay, so yes, teams. I was going to make a list of teams that have never been in my power rankings, and now the Cardinals would have to come off because they are my number 10 slot. They are 6-4.
Gotcha.
They currently lead the NFC West. I don't know if they're going to stay there or not, but right now, I do.
Dude, listen, if I somehow called that shit at the beginning of the season, I'm going to laugh my tits off. No.
Look, the Cardinals, they're currently 6-4.
Yep.
They lead the NFC West.
Yep.
There's no reason to think I mean, if you called that, I'm gonna laugh.
It'll be pretty funny.
But we'll see.
Well, at number 10, I have a team that hasn't been on my top 10 yet. And it is the Arizona Cardinals. They are also at my 10th spot. For all the same reasons. Like, they played really well. They just managed to squeak into my top 10 spot. We'll see if they continue moving forward. To be honest, I had the Rams here because I anticipated the Rams to win last week. They did not, and so the Cardinals took over the spot that the Rams had, basically. 1-for-1 swap.
All right, my number 9 is the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh, okay.
You had a bye week, but you're still a winning team. You're still like third in our division currently, I think.
Technically, yeah, because the Bears are last.
Because the Bears are last.
They still haven't won a division game though, so
they're probably about to do that this coming week, though.
Yes, though probably.
So,
no, they might not, which would be hilarious.
If they get beat by the Bears, I'm going to do nothing but laugh at them.
For real, dude.
Point of all of this is, look, for right now, you're in the rankings. You've got a decent record. You've been playing decent football. But if you don't play well this week, you're probably not going to find yourself in my top 10 anymore.
All right, at number 9, I have the Houston Texans. They have taken a dramatic drop in my rankings. They have continued to look worse and worse, barely squeaking out games or even just squeaking out losses in some cases. They're still hanging on my top 10 because I still think that they have a lot of potential, but yeah, I think the injuries are starting to catch up with them for sure.
Who?
Texans.
See, they're not even on my list right now.
Yeah, see, they're at my 9.
My number 8, the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Eagles.
The Eagles. Look, you guys are playing very well right now. This division is going to come down between you and Washington. I'm going to be interested to watch those games. It's going to be fun to watch, I think. And it's been a long time since I've been able to say this is going to come down between Philly and Washington. So
It is weird to say that.
it is very weird to say that. But yeah, you guys have been playing good football. You're what, 7-2 or something? You're playing very good right now. So you are indeed in the top 10.
At number 8, I have the Philadelphia Eagles for all the same reasons.
At number 7, I have their rivals, the Washington Commanders. Look, you're playing very good football. Jay Daniels looks fucking amazing. Your defense is playing much better than it should. You've got them playing above and beyond. You barely lost that game to the Steelers. You guys are very good this year. And Commander fans, all 12 of you, I think you should just probably, brace for a fun season.
That's fair. At number 7, I have the Commanders for all the same reasons again. Mostly, actually, I just think it's fun to. Honestly, I think watching Jalen is just really fun.
Yeah, Daniels.
Or Jaden, sorry.
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, yeah. He's just really fun to watch.
He is. Number 6, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know what, guys? You're a damn good football team. I did not think you had this in you with Russ and Fields as your quarterbacks. You're proving me wrong. Very much wrong. And Russ is even proving that he's better than I thought he was. Good job. Yeah, no, this is a good football team. You've got a very solid defense, and you've got enough of an offense that people should be fucking worried.
That's fair. At number 6, I have the Vikings. I'm apparently harsher on them this week than you were. Yeah, it was just a bad game. I don't want to say I lost faith because I haven't, because I still think that they're still a good football team, but that was just a really disgusting game to watch all around. Defense was okay most of the time, but once in a while it was just like, what's going on? And the offense was frustrating to watch, move the ball and then give it up, and then move the ball and then give it up, and then move the ball and then give nothing worse in my opinion.
I have the Vikings at number 5, and partially for me it's because they won a bad game. You played horribly, you played bad, a game you should have lost, you found a way to win. That's the mark.
It shouldn't even been close, though. That's the reason why I marked them down so bad. It shouldn't even been close.
But I'm still, you know what? When you get down like that and you're looking and you're playing like crap, sometimes it's pretty easy to fall into the quicksand and get beat by a bad team. Yeah. You found a way to not do that. You did just enough to not lose. That deserves a few points in my book. Shows grit.
Yeah. At 5, I have the Buffalo Bills. They have been playing very well, and they continue to play very well, even though despite they still have some flaws. Like, even though they won that game against the Colts, it wasn't, as you mentioned, the prettiest of games.
At number 4, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Look, guys, you should have done way better against the Bengals. You won by a point because they decided to go for 2. Yeah. And there should have been penalties called on that play. You probably should not have won that game. Let's be realistic. But you did win. But your defense is not playing really great football right now. Your offense is playing pretty decent football, but your defense needs to step it up.
At number 4, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have been impressing me quite a bit, and so they managed to make it into my top 5. We'll see how long they can stick there for, but yeah, I mean they're obviously no joke. They have come to play football, and As long as they don't have a mid-season collapse, I think they'll be fine.
At number 3, I have the Buffalo Bills. You've been playing good football. That wasn't the prettiest game. You found a way to win it anyways. And your defense managed to make Joe Flacco go back to the bench. Banished him to the bench. I will say, you're going to need to do better this week. And I'm counting on you to do so.
At number 3, I have the Ravens. Despite that game coming close, he did win. And I think it was against a team that I think is still underrated. I think they are still vastly better than their record looks. So I think it was a very tough team, a tough opponent. And I think even winning by a point is still something to look at as a positive. You didn't lose. You definitely could have lost, but you didn't.
And okay, for me, I'm going to reveal 1 and 2 at the same time, obviously. 2 is the Chiefs, 1 is the Lions. Look, Chiefs, you came a blocked field goal away from losing your perfect record. You keep getting lucky, and it's going to run out. I'm telling you it's going to run out.
I'm not going to lie. This one was actually tough. I almost thought about swapping them just because of how bad that Jared Goff game was. Holy fucking shit.
That's why I kept them at number 1, is because...
But I kept them just barely because they managed to barely squeak that game. But the Chiefs were so close to taking that.
Good opponent. They played the Texans, which are a decently good opponent. They, despite you had a really bad game, you found a way to win. Guess what? That's what playoff teams do. That's what championship teams do. If you're having trouble finding ways to move the ball and do things, you mix it up and you find a way to win anyhow. And that's what I think the Lions prove to me, is that they've got chutzpah, man. So I assume you're the same as me on 1 and 2.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about next week. Talk about week 11. Week 11, as we were just talking about. Thursday night, Commanders at Eagles.
I'll take the Commanders for the funsies of it.
All right, I'll take the Eagles. I think their defense is better, and Saquon, I think, gives them a bit of an edge.
That's fair.
Vikings at Titans.
Vikings.
Yeah, is there a question about this one?
Shouldn't be.
Here's another good one. This one's going to be fun. Ravens at Steelers.
Don't get me wrong, Steelers are playing pretty good, but the Ravens are just... I just don't think so, Ravens.
I'll take the Steelers. Jags at Lions.
I mean, is that a question?
Is that a question? Rams at Patriots.
In theory, the Rams should have that, as long as they play better than they did against Words.
The Dolphins?
Dolphins, yeah.
I agree with you. I also don't think the Patriots have enough weapons if the Rams turn it into a shootout.
No.
Browns at Saints.
I mean, probably the Saints, though I will say the Browns do have an opportunity, but I'm still sticking with the Saints.
I agree with you. Colts at Jets. And Anthony Richardson is the starter for the Colts.
Coin toss, Jets, why not?
I'll take the Colts, sure. One of us will win that one. Raiders at Dolphins.
I mean, probably Dolphins.
More than likely. Packers at Bears.
Listen, I realize it's probably going to be the Packers. It'd be the wise choice to pick the Packers. I'm not going to pick the wise choice. I am going to pick the Bears.
I'll take the wise choice here.
Yep.
Falcons at Broncos.
Broncos have been playing better.
They have.
Falcons have been mostly good. Consensus would say probably Falcons, but I'm going to go Broncos.
I'm also going to go Broncos. Seahawks at Niners.
I'm going to go Niners.
Me too. Especially with CMC back and having a full week's rest. Yeah.
Yep.
Chiefs at Bills.
I mean, I haven't lost yet by just spamming Chiefs, so fuck it. Chiefs.
I'ma take the Bills. I'ma call it. This is the week the Chiefs lose their undefeated ranking. Bengals at Chargers Sunday night.
Oof. I'm gonna lean Bengals.
I'll take the Chargers. And then Texans at Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Is that a question?
For real. Who's the real Texas team?
All right, let's do Hoffer Hog before I do my NHL top 10. You ready? So this week, for Hoffer Hog, Hall of Fame or Hall of Good/Great, we're going to do tight ends. Here is your Hall of Fame tight end. He played 17 years. In that time, he played in 270 games. He caught 1,325 passes of 2,012 thrown to him. He had 15,127 receiving yards. He had 11.4 yards per reception and 7.5 yards per target. He had 111 touchdowns. He made 14 Pro Bowls and 6 All-Pros.
I'm still listening, Yurid.
Yep, and that was it. That's the Hall of Famer. No Super Bowls, no MVPs, no Opoys.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. It's a tight end.
Alrighty. Your first tight end, and I'll do the first two, and then you can make your decision, has played 12 seasons. In that time, he played 168 games. He has caught 967 passes of 1,343 thrown to him. He has 11,827 receiving yards. He has 12.2 yards per reception, 8.8 yards per target, 76 touchdowns. He is a 9-time Pro Bowler, a 4-time All-Pro, and a 3-time Super Bowl champion. Your second tight end played only 11 years. In that time, he played in 143 games. He caught 621 passes of 960 thrown to him for 9,286 yards. He had 15 yards exactly in his yards per reception. His targets, 9.7 yards per target, total of 92 touchdowns. He is a 5-time Pro Bowler, a 4-time All-Pro, a 1-time Comeback Player of the Year, and a 4-time Super Bowl champion.
Sure, why not?
Both of them?
Yeah, I mean, not a distinct enough difference.
Your next one played 16 seasons. In that time, he played in 236 games. He caught 955 passes of 1,459 thrown to him for 11,841 yards. He had 12.4 yards per reception, 8.1 yards per target, 116 touchdowns. He is an 8-time Pro Bowler and a 3-time All-Pro.
Lower end, but yeah.
The next one played 17 years. He played in 271 games, caught 1,228 passes of 1,720 thrown to him for a total of 13,046 yards. He had 10.6 yards per reception and 7.6 yards per target with a total of 74 touchdowns. He is an 11-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time All-Pro, and a 1-time Walter Payton Man of the Year.
That one's a little tight. Not a huge fan of some of the stats. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say no.
Your next one, played 13 seasons. He got into 197 games. He caught 719 passes of 1,115 thrown to him for a total of 8,545 yards. He had 11.9 yards per reception and 7.7 yards per target. He caught 89 touchdowns, was a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time All-Pro.
No.
And your last one played 14 seasons, and in that time got into 199 games. He caught 742 passes of 1,201 thrown at him. He has 8,683 receiving yards, 11.7 yards per reception, 7.2 yards per target, 60 touchdowns, and is a 3-time Pro Bowler.
No.
All right. Your Hall of Famer, Tony Gonzalez. The first person you said yes to, Travis Mr. Swift Kelsey.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
The second person you said yes to, Rob the Gronkowski.
Gronk, yeah. I figured one of them was Gronk. I wasn't sure which one it was.
He had 4 Super Bowl championships to Kelsey's current 3.
Yeah.
The next person that you said yes to on the lower end, the first guy to really make this a thing, Antonio Gates.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
The guy you said no to right after him, the forever cowboy, Jason Witten. The next one you said no to, Jimmy Graham. He had a couple of really good years at the beginning and then fell off hard.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And the last one, I feel bad for, but he was injured a lot, and it is Greg Olson.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad for him because he was so good for a while and then just got injured and couldn't play anymore.
Couldn't play, yeah.
So, yeah, you put in Kelsey, Gronk, and Gates.
I feel pretty good about that, actually.
Yeah, I'm not bad about that one. I don't mind that one whatsoever. I think you did a good job with that. All right. Now we've got the last thing we're going to do, which is the NHL Power Rankings. Let's see here. I know I've got them. Here we go. Alrighty, so this is the first Power Rankings of the season. For those of you that have never been here before, I tell you what the team is, I give their current record, how many points they currently have, and what their last 10 games were. So we're going to start at 10, and with a team from the East, it is a team that always crumbles when it comes time for the playoffs. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. They are currently 9-6-2 with a total of 20 points. Their last 10, they are 5-3-2. Look, they're playing okay hockey. Currently, Austin Matthews is out. They're also missing a couple members from their D-corps. Their goaltending has been much better this year than it has been in the past. Anthony Stolarz looks really good. Joseph Woll looks pretty damn good. So I'd say they're going to be a better team than they normally have been. Number 9. He tried to get away from you, and you just were like, yeah, you got to land eventually.
Yeah, I mean, he stole food off my plate and then tried to run away, so... He had to get put away for that. He knows better.
He knows better. All right, number 9. The Vegas Golden Knights. Currently, they are 9-4-2 with 20 points, and their last 10, they have been 6-2-2. Look, it's the Golden Knights. They're still going to be the Golden frickin' Knights. We can dislike them as much as we want, and that's not going to change anything. Number 8, the LA Kings at 9-5-3 with 21 points. In their last 10, they are 6-3-1. Look, the Kings are actually playing pretty good hockey this year, but they do that every year. They are just good enough to be at the top of the standings. I don't know that they're good enough to make a run to the Cup. Number 7, the Vancouver Canucks at 8-3-3 with 19 points. However, in their last 10, they are 7-2-1. They are playing good hockey recently. They started a little slower. Quinn Hughes has been absolutely amazing on the D-corps for them. He's one of the youngest players ever to, I want to say, 300 assists for a defenseman. It's ridiculous. They're playing very good hockey. Number 6, the Washington Capitals at 10-4-0 with 20 points. Last 10, 7-3-0. Look, this team is a very weird team this year. I don't know how to categorize this team. I really don't know what to think about them. They play really good defense, and they limit your shots. Like, they pin you into your own zone and limit your shots so that they can get theirs off. Ovi is resurging. He's probably going to break Gretzky's record this year for most goals in a career. I think it's amazing. Yeah, they're playing really good hockey right now. Number 5, the New Jersey Devils at 11-6-2 with 24 points. Last 10, they are 6-3-1. This is the Devils team everybody kind of expected to see last year, and this year it's all kind of coming together. Everything seems to be gelling under Sheldon Keefe, new coach. So they're playing really well. Now we'll have to see if Keefe always has really good teams in the regular season, and they always seem to fall apart in the playoffs. So we'll see if that's going to happen again. Number 4, the Minnesota Wild. They are currently 10-2-3 with 23 points. In their last 10, they are 7-2-1. If I told you that I thought the Minnesota Wild would be this high up in my first power rankings, I'd be a lying bastard. I didn't think they'd make my power rankings. But they are playing some unreal level of hockey. Gustafsson has refound his form from not last season, but season before last. He is a wall, keeping most everything out. Their defense is playing very well. Faber has been a monster, and he's taken steps forward. Kaprizov is playing at an otherworldly level. He's playing at a heart level this year. He's going to be in conversation for MVP. Which, okay, yay, great. So yeah, the Minnesota Wild, they look like they have a contender this year. Number 3, the Florida Panthers with 11-4-1. They have 23 total points. Last 10, they are 8-2-0. The Panthers are still the Panthers, man. They won the Cup last year, and they're a wagon again this year. Yeah.
Weird to say that following the NFL Panthers.
Yeah, no, the Florida Panthers are an absolute monster. However, if you live in Carolina and you're upset at the Carolina Panthers, go watch a Hurricanes game, because they are number 2, and they are 11-3-0 with 22 points, and in their last 10, they are 9-1-0. These guys are absolutely wrecking shop. They are trying to prove that they are a contender team again. The East is absolutely loaded. It's going to be fun to watch. If Carolina can keep this up, it's going to be a blast. And the number 1 team, as if it's any curiosity at all or any mystery, is the Winnipeg Jets at 15-1-0 with 30 frickin' points. They are 9-1-0 in their last 10. They're a wagon, period. Connor Hellebuck is doing things that we haven't seen since Dominic Hasek in net. And they're outscoring, outplaying, and out everything almost every opponent. The only team they've been beat by this year is Toronto in Toronto. Outside of that, Winnipeg has been an absolute wagon, and they're just currently they are doing whatever they want to whoever they want, and there's nobody that's stopping them. If they keep this up, they're going to run away with the frickin' cup this year. Nobody's going to beat them. Now you notice there was a team that wasn't on this list. There's been a perennial on this list, and that's the Boston Bruins. They kind of suck this year.
We'll see. I'm not.
Colorado
I don't want to hold.
Colorado also kind of sucks this year, although they're getting better again. And who was the other one? Dallas is also not on this list. So we'll see how this all goes this season. I think it's going to be a fun season. We'll have to see how everything pans out. I will say that the new PWHL jerseys, they're tight. Most of them. Some of them are dumb, and I don't like them very much. I think the Minnesota Frost and the Montreal Victory are my 2 favorites. Although I will admit to liking the, I forget which jersey it is, but one of them has like an anchor. And it's kind of a teal thing, and I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah. All right. I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else? Did we miss anything?
Not that I know of.
All righty. Well, then, we're going to wrap everything up here for you guys. If you like what we do, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that thumbs up, hit the little bell notification so you can be notified of our content whenever it posts, which is usually during football season. It'll be weekly. We also talk hockey. If major basketball things happen, or major baseball things, we will talk about those, but nothing major's going on there that we care about. About the only thing I can think of there is that Tim Hardaway Jr. bounced his head off the court a couple of times the other night and had to be taken away in a wheelchair, and his dad followed him. I don't know what happened. I did not see the play. So I can't tell you how that worked. No. I can only tell you that it happened.
Sure.
But anyway, outside of that, we hope the rest of you all have a great week. We hope that whatever you want to accomplish, you put your mind to it. We believe in you. We know you can do it. In the meantime, we'll see you back here next week when we look at how we did in week 11, and we will see if the Chiefs remain undefeated. But in the meantime, we'll tell you. Peace out.